Okay, Spanish 3, today we're going to talk about the conditional. Now there are many ways to use the conditional in Spanish, but one of the important things to know is that it would translate to would, could, or should. We often use the conditional when we aren't sure about the response. So one way to use the conditional would be to indicate conjecture or probability in past time. Okay, so it says, ¿Dónde estaría María anoche? Where do you think Maria was last night? And you'd say, estaría en casa. I think she was at home. Okay, she was probably at home. So this isn't the only way to say it. This is just a way that you could do it. They also point out that you could use probablemente and the imperfect. So remember, Spanish 3 is all about choices, and we have another choice now about how to say where somebody probably was or what they probably were doing. We also use the conditional when we want to soften a response. We definitely use it for politeness, and this is something that's pretty popular. So, por favor, ¿me podrías dar una galleta? Would you please give me a cookie? You're making a response. You want to make sure that it's polite, and so you use the conditional to soften it up to make it sound polite. Querría $5, por favor. You can also use it where it's not a question, but a statement, and you're still being very polite. You're saying, I would like $5, please. So again, the politeness is another mark of the conditional. We use the conditional when we're talking about something hypothetical, and this is probably one of the more popular uses of the conditional. For example, yo viajaría a la luna mañana si pudiera. So I would go to the moon tomorrow if I could. So it's talking about something that hasn't happened, but notice that it has this si pudiera, this phrase that starts it off. So if we're going to be talking about hypothetical things, we need a way to start off these sentences. And three popular ways to do that, now these aren't the only ways, but three popular ways are to use these starters. So, si pudiera, si tuviera $1,000,000, and si fuera. Notice that the si does not have an accent. Si without an accent means if. So, si pudiera comes from the verb poder, which is can or to be able to. So, if I could, si pudiera, yo iría a España todos los años. If I could, I would go to Spain every year. Si tuviera $1,000,000, yo viajaría el mundo. I would travel the world. Si fuera mis padres, yo no, let me think. Si fuera mis padres, yo no daría problemas a mis niños. I wouldn't cause my kids problems if I were my parents. So we're talking hypothetical. None of these things are true, but if they were true, this is what you would do. The conditional and the future tense have the same type of ending, so they're like cousins, they're related. They follow the same rule, but they have different endings. So do you remember your future tense endings? Future tense endings are taking us back a bit, but notice that we have our endings here, and they're a AR-ER verb combination. And remember that they get added directly to the infinitive. The conditional works like that. The conditional endings get added directly to the end of the infinitive, which it's important to note, and the endings look like this. Notice we have accents in all of the forms here. They should remind you an awful lot of the imperfect endings, but the difference is that we're adding them to the end of the infinitive. So it says add the endings directly to the end of the infinitive. I wanted to make sure that I made that statement. So notice that we have hablar in our ending. Hablaría would be I would talk. Viviría would be I would live. And comería would be I would eat. Of course, the conditional tense has irregulars as well. So just like the future tense, they have the same set of irregulars. So if you watch the next slide, we use these groups. We have the group that's in the first group where we drop the E out of the ending, and so one of our verbs that fits in that group is caber. So when we use caber, we drop the E out, and the stem is that, then we add our ending to it. Second group is drop E, add D, which tells you exactly what to do. Poner happens to be in one of that group, so we drop the E, and we add a D in its place. And then we have the crazy irregulars. There's only two verbs in that group, and those don't follow any of the rules. So this is the slide that has those irregulars. Here's group 1, group 2, and group 3. And as you can see, these have the future tense endings on them, so you don't need to write out the whole thing. Just the stem and the infinitive is what would be helpful for you. Making a sentence with the conditional, it says start with one of your starters. So remember our choices are si pudiera, si tuviera, si fuera. And for example, it says si pudiera, nunca iría a la escuela los lunes. If I could, I would never go to school on Mondays. Si tuviera $1,000,000, compraría mi profe de español un regalo muy grande. If I had $1,000,000, I would buy my Spanish teacher a huge gift. Si fuera la profe, if I were the teacher, nunca les daría tarea a mis estudiantes. All right, so it's talking about hypothetical things. And notice that we used our ia ending because we have our conditionals. It says finish these statements and use the conditional in your response. And I'm not sure why it wrote over it, but it says, si yo pudiera viajar a cualquier lugar, yo. Si tuviera mucho dinero, yo. Si no tuviera la escuela, yo. Mami, por favor, me comprarías un fill in the blank. And profe, por favor, think of a question that you could ask me that would be polite using the conditional. So please make sure that you take notes and be ready for a note check tomorrow. Have a good day.